Hey guys and girls, welcome to this week's episode of the No BS With Birchy podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Birch, and this is a show unraveling the truth to the facade of the 21st century. Now, we're now exiting the matrix and waking up to motherfucking reality. Today, I have a special guest. We've got Hayley here. Hayley, thanks for coming onto the show, the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
That is all right. Today, we're going to talk about children and, educating children from a young age and, getting them started on the right way for financial independence. And we're now at a point like B.Invested Group, we're in our 15th year, going on 16 years in business. And it's, I'm excited to see it, but I'm also feel old because a lot of my clients that I helped out 10, 15 years ago, they've got 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old kids. And now their kids are coming in as 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, buying properties. And I'm like, I remember when you were this big, you couldn't even put two words together. And now they're up to 3 or 4 properties in their portfolio. And Hayley, if you want to give the viewers a little bit of a background just on yourself, and like you're an investor yourself, you've written a book.
Yes, so I own a few properties myself, and I've written a book called The A to Z of Finance for Your Tiny Entrepreneur, which is teaching kids about money from a young age. We saw a bit of a gap in the market, and I think, as Nathan likes to say, school does not teach you about money or really anything to do with the important things in life. So this was a way of starting the conversation for money with children.
Yeah, cool. There's some pretty interesting words a lot of adults don't realise, even in the book.
That's true. That is true.
So it's...
And talking about kids, you look at your event that you had a couple of weeks ago, and there was that a young guy, he was 13.
Yes.
And he came onto the stage, and I think that was such a perfect example of the environment that he had been brought up in. His parents, I believe, are clients.
Yeah. So the people that are watching this wouldn't have known the event. We had an event recently, like 500 people turned up. We're talking about building a portfolio and whatnot. I had a 13-year-old talk to me. Hey, I'm 13. He's very shy. I got him to come up on stage and share his goals with everyone. He was like nervous, but it was like, it was out of his comfort zone, and it was really, really cool to see. So yeah.
But he said that he had seen his mum and dad do it, and they had spoken about with him. So it was just, that was what you do.
I think quite often, I used to be a little bit heavier than what I am in weight wise, right? And I never want to look in the mirror, right? And you just walk past and you're like, oh, that's not me, right? And you just move on. And I feel like a lot of people, they just sweep things under the rug in their life, right? And they say you shouldn't talk about, certain things at the dinner table. You shouldn't talk about politics, shouldn't talk about religion, shouldn't talk about money, right? And I think that they're things that you should be talking about because, they're real things in the world. And, kids don't realise take an iPad, shut up, or let's go get a beer or whatever the case may be. But, what things are you putting into your child's mind or into their environment whilst they're young? And, people say, oh, let a kid be young, let them be a kid or whatever. But you can have all of it, I guess. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think you only know what you know, right? So how did we learn how did you learn about property, and how did that become something that you were interested in?
It's actually an interesting question that you put forward to me there. How did I get started in property? So I was 13 years old. I've got 3 brothers, and one of them was moving house every 3 months, and he'd move into a house and get kicked out of a house and move to another house. And one of my brothers goes, I'm sick of helping you move. So he bought a property, and, I saw someone buy a place, and I was like, what, you pay rent $200 a week? And I was 13 years old, and I was like, I want to own a property. I want to be like my bigger brothers, right? And and my brothers look back at me now and they're like, we bought 1 or 2 properties and that gave you an idea to build an empire and a business and all these things. Like, you just scale it and stuff. And my brothers never looked at it from let's buy rental properties to live off. And still to this day they don't. They're probably more like a hoarder and collecting a couple of assets. But it's something that it was at that point, I was 13 years old, and I thought to myself, hey, if I had to earn $1,000 a week as an average wage back in the day, that'd be like 5 properties at $200 a week. I need 5 properties. I don't have to work. and like I was exposed to it just for that little flash in the pan. I saw something my brothers didn't even see, and they were buying a property, but they were buying it with emotion or a couple of monetary values to it. But I was looking at it from a business perspective, and it's like you got the same tool, but it's used in 2 different ways, and that's how I started in property.
And it's that exposure to it, because had you not had that, be invested, be where it is, would you just don't know.
No, and I think the good or the bad or the ugly, right? Like there's the old saying where there's 2 kids and one's an alcoholic, like on drugs, alcoholic bum, and the other one, it doesn't touch alcohol, doesn't touch drugs. And then you ask the kid why you're an alcoholic, and the kid goes, oh, because my dad was an alcoholic, right? And he asks the one that doesn't drink, why don't you touch alcohol? So, oh, my dad was an alcoholic. And it's like, how do you process that? And I think one aspect was, my brothers and buying properties and stuff like that, but also my family worked very hard in a business, and it was like, fuck, like you're always struggling for money, and it's like, trying to find a way that that I didn't have to struggle in life for money.
Yeah,
that was strategy. So yeah,
I think in today's culture, there's this. Oh, I mean, not in every family, but in a lot of families where children are separate to the parents, like they go to daycare, then they go to school. So for 8 hours a day, they're with someone else. They're not in the day-to-day activities that you're doing, which is actively building their future, but they don't know a lot of that. So I think it's having those conversations with the kids. My 3-year-old knows that if she gets something off the shelf at a shop, she has to take it to the counter and pay with a card, and that's just because that's what we've always done with her. She's included in that part of life. So
just the card or cash as well?
Just the card. I don't really have cash.
There we go. We need to teach her about
the cash,
the real money. Yeah,
cash. Yeah, that's right. Well, is it cash or is it gold and silver? I don't know.
It's cash
What's
is
the real
trash.
money?
Cash is trash.
So it's having those conversations with them, like that boy that you had on the stage. How did he know you set a goal and then you work towards the goal? Well, that's what his mum and dad have taught him.
Yeah.
So how do kids know that you set goals and you have a plan and you work towards it? That is up to, I think, us as parents to teach them that and to have those conversations from a really young age.
Yeah.
And that was the whole idea of the book, was such a nice resource to have that's easy to understand, and it just gets their mind going.
Cool. And I guess, setting the foundations, right? So you've got the book, which is, check it out. Maybe we'll put a link if you're watching this on the video, you'll be able to find the book. How do people get the book? What's it called?
It's Your Tiny Entrepreneur, the A to Z of money. But there's a link. There's a store you can buy it from. Beautiful.
So you can buy a book. What other ways could you get the kids involved? You can get them to pay for things, teach them about things.
I just think the day-to-day conversations. I remember hearing like Murdoch was, I'm pretty sure it was Rupert Murdoch, and he said that he used to have his children in the room with him from the age of 4 and up, and they would watch him do his negotiations. They'd sit in on meetings, and he said that was how they learnt to read body language. That was how they learnt to negotiate, because they watched him do it. And I mean, he's probably one of the best businessmen out there. And you look at them all now, they went off and they did a lot of their own things, and now obviously involved in his companies. And I was talking to a young girl the other day. She's 20. She just bought her first property in the outskirts of Sydney. And I said, well, what made you want to buy your first property? She said, well, when we were growing up, it was just drilled into us from a young age that if you want to move out of home, you can do that, but you have to own a property first. So she said that was just the goal that I worked towards. And her parents used to say to her, you're not going to buy the big mansion with the pool that you're used to growing up in. So she's bought on the outskirts of Sydney, and she's 20. I mean, there's not a lot of 20-year-olds that could do that. But that was just...
Oh, we see a lot of them here.
Mindset. Yeah. Invested you do. But it's the mindset. But again, they're clients' children. So they've watched their parents do it, and now they're going to mirror what they've seen.
Of course. And I think like getting them involved, like whether it's, on your own property journey, whether it's in your own business, whether it's, playing games. There's like the rich dad, poor dad cash flow game. Yeah. There's Monopoly out there. Getting him to do things, here's paintbrush, let's go and, do some work, getting him involved. I think in the world today, it's easy to go, here's an iPad or here's a, whatever, but actual, getting them in the trenches with you, seeing if it's a bad day, like, hey, shit's going bad, is what we've got to do to get through it. Because I think also with like staff over the years, like here at B.Invested, we've got hundreds of staff throughout the country in all different businesses and whatnot. And some of the staff that I've seen that have worked in a family business growing up, I've been able to tell the difference between how they view the business and the way that the business is sort of run, and the care and the love that they have is different to someone that's been a textbook academic. And there's nothing wrong with that either, but it's like, I can tell. Well,
it's real life experience. Yeah. My dad used to make us come in. He owned a direct marketing company, and we used to have to come in and sort it was called dead mail. So it was just mail that was returned to sender, and he had a whole mail room, which was probably the size of this podcast studio. And in our school holidays, we used to have to go in there and sort it alphabetically, me and all my siblings and a couple of our friends. And that we just loved it because we were in the office working. We got paid $20 a day, which was a lot of money when you were like 8. And we were around the business then constantly from a really young age.
That room that you're talking about sounds like my council rates, my bills that come in on a daily basis, right? I need a room for that myself. Cool. And I think I saw this kid years ago. I forget his name. Like, if I can think of his name, I might get the team to put on the thing. He'd be probably like 20 now or something. He was this kid who's in America. He's like an entrepreneur kid. And he talked about, it was a podcast, he talked about he's went to his friend's house, and his friend was doing chores, right? He got $20 to do chores, and he went home to his dad or mum and dad and said, hey, Dad, I want to do chores, right? And he's like, what do you want to do chores for? And he goes, well, I want to do chores because my friend, when I go to my friend's house, he does chores and he gets $20 and he can go buy a video game. And the dad turned around and he goes, listen, you live in my house, so I expect you to do chores. That's your right to get a roof over your head and whatnot. It's your bed, you clean it, you do whatever. He goes, but what I will do, I'll give you $50 if you read this book, and gives him business books and whatnot, reads the book, and then he writes a report about what he liked about the book and the things that he learned from it. And he goes, okay, here you go, here's $50, go and invest it and do something with it. So then that money is getting recycled and the kid's learning and growing whilst they're getting paid. So, I think the mindset, and like, if you want the kid to do chores and you're paying them money, well, then you're teaching him to be a slave and be a cleaner, and there's nothing wrong with being clean or whatever. But it's like, you get in a job, you're stuck in that job, you're selling your time, and from a young age of a child, it's like work hard and all that sort of stuff, but you can work smarter too. So I've always thought it's important to instill those things at a young age. So
I think so, yeah, definitely. Because what they learn, especially in those first 7 years, can set them up for the rest of their life. Yeah, really. Exactly.
How they react in a situation. You said beforehand, Murdoch, whoever it was, the art of sales as a kid. Right? Everything. People say, "Oh, I don't like sales." It's like, if you try and teach a kid, they got to eat their dinner. Right? The kid says no, and it's like, okay, here's a chicken nugget with some processed meat. It's no good for the kid, right? They need to be, here's your Brussels sprout, here's your meat, here's whatever. So everything that you're doing in your life is a sale, right? Whether it's you as a kid trying to eat the chicken nugget, you got to try and sell it to your parents want the chicken nugget, or and kids pick up things very, very quickly, very easily, and people would be amazed at how quick kids will, I know my way around this. I know how to play it. Twist mum and dad's hand. I know how to twist this. I know what to do. So, yeah. So I guess off the back of that, like kids' first sort of negotiation tactic. What sort of bartering things can you do? Do you have any ideas or thoughts or? Yeah.
I don't think I would negotiate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, as they get older, probably watching, depending on the situation, like you said, you're always selling and there's always an element of sales. So whether if you've got a business, having the kids involved in that so they can see how you position the business and sell the business. But even, just talking to people and being involved in adult conversations.
Character building,
yeah.
Send them to June Daly Watkins and, how to carry themselves, how to shake a hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
How to greet someone, how to.
Yeah, and that's a lot of there's I do job interviews, and some people I think, oh my goodness, I just can't. So yeah, the art of picking up the phone, that is something that so many people don't realize the power behind. Don't text, don't email, like pick up the phone and have a phone call. I was listening to a podcast, I think it was Mark Boris actually, and Simon's nephew who started Aussie Home Loans. Yeah. And he said, I used to say, if you can get in front of a person, you'll close, your percentages of closing the deal is 90% higher than if you do it over the phone or over email. And that's something that our society has definitely lost with social media and with phones, and it just, the personal relationships are lost. And I think we'll see that circle back in some time, because no one wants to talk to a robot. But yeah.
And I think also, like, we talk about schooling, we talk about the knowledge of words and whatnot. The system's designed to us. It's like there's two different languages that are out there, right? And when it comes to the financial space, a lot of the things that are talked about are in Latin and, you know, different sort of terms and things that people aren't taught about at school. They're just like, oh, you know, this is how it is. But teaching children to understand and value and look at history about how certain things have happened beforehand. We've all been here 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, however old you are. It's a very small, you know, we're only taking advice from the people that taught us, and the intergenerational sort of curses that could occur from one generation to the next generation, and breaking out of that is a very big thing. And if you're wanting your children to break out of something that you've been cursed with for thousands of years, it's like, okay, well, how do you direct that and help that through your child to get them to the next, you know?
Yeah.
And knowledge is very limited from what we've been taught, so.
Well, if you look at the basis of the schooling system versus like what some of the most successful entrepreneurs, how they were taught, I think Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, there's like quite a few of them that were all taught the Montessori method, which is not widely taught anymore. We're taught the Rothschild Rockefeller method, which is
do what we're
mass
told.
Production, slave labor. But they and the Montessori method is, if you can do it, you'll remember it. So it's all about getting kids involved from a young age, unpack the dishwasher. They don't believe in giving kids plastic cups even, because it's like, if you break it, you'll understand cause and effect from a very young age. And
so glass cups for kids, smash them.
Break it. They say they'll do it once or twice, and then they'll realise you can't break it.
Do your kids clean the dishwasher and do the washing? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Teach them when they're toddlers, eh?
I think they've smashed 2 plates and no more since then.
Cool. I always takes me back as well, like there was that kid turned a paperclip into a house. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
No.
So yeah, basically what this kid has done is turned the paperclip into a house by trading his way from one item to another item to another item. He swapped a paperclip for a broken radio, and then the radio for something else, and till he got to a point where it was about like 20 trades. We can see it in the video clip that through those trades you end up getting a house, and it's like, you know, that was an adventure, right? It's turning these things into adventure. Your children want your kid wants to buy a toy, right? Let's just say that a kid wants a toy. You've got to try and teach the kid how to get the value of that toy. So how much is that toy worth? Oh, it's worth $50. Okay, well, there's a sale on, if you get, 3 of them, you get the 4th one for free. Okay, well, find a way to sell 3 of those toys to some friends or other people that are around you, and make your one the freebie one. So it's like, how can you teach them the art of entrepreneurship at such a young age? So, yeah.
So what would you recommend for, you've obviously got clients now that have children coming through the ranks who are now purchasing, like you said, their 3rd and 4th properties. So how would you recommend nurturing that next generation with property?
I think the biggest thing that I've seen from my clients over the last 15 years, 16 years is that they've made it a conversation topic.
Yeah.
And sometimes, the kids will think the parents are boring. It's like, it's a plain old Marshall, right? It's like, you're just stupid mum, you're just stupid dad, right? Whatever. And they're not seeing them, it takes a 3rd person to come in and say, hey, you can do it. And over the years, I've had a lot of parents like, a lot of the time back in the day, right, people will be like, I talked to Nathan. He's young. He's 25. He's successful. He's retired. And the kids will come to me and they're like 12 and they're like, oh, so what did you get at school? I'm like, oh, I got 32 in my UAI. It was like, I failed school, whatever. When they go home to the parents are like, oh, so what did you learn from Nathan? Oh, Nathan failed school, so I don't have to do good at school, right? Legit, right? And people are like, don't talk to Nathan, right? But what they failed to listen to was all the other things that I said around it, right?
Yes.
I was working at 13 years old. I was exposed to business. I knew what shit was. I knew what the tough life looked like, and I didn't want that tough life. So I realized that I had to go and step into the matrix, work that tough life, work my way the easiest way and have a creative plan. And I treated my life like a business. I thought, okay, if I have to go slug it out for the next 10 years, I'll go work 2 jobs if I have to. I'll go work 3 jobs. I'll go sacrifice my youth because then I can live life doing what I want, how I want, when I want.
Yes.
And, that was important. And I see a lot of people out there where the kids are like, okay, I'll be like Nathan, right? I'll go do this, I'll go do that. So it is a humbling experience to be a part of, not just the person coming on board's journey, but their kids. It's like a legacy and it's a mindset. And the kids are having better relationship with their parents because they're talking about things, in the world that we live in today, it's hard to fit in a lot of instances. You go and talk, if you're a 20-year-old, they're not even talking about it, they're talking about buying some Dogecoin or whatever, right? They're talking Dogecoin or like buying some Ripple or, right? They're buying a digit, right, on the computer. And then they're never going to know what, they'll be 30 and they'll be like, shit, I should maybe get a rental property to live in or like rent a property or whatever. But no one's talking about, okay, you're 20 years old, go get a mortgage, whatever, right? And I think the society pressure for a 20-year-old today, for them to be like their parents or even remotely close to, they could way far surpass their parents' wealth in their lifetime whilst their parents are still alive if they plan their exit correctly from the start. You can fuck up in your teenage years, fuck up in your 20s and even into your 30s, but once you get into that 40s, your time of earning ability in that is becoming harder and harder. So if you're starting at your 20, you've got a far greater advantage than a 30 or a 40-year-old. And people that'll be 20 or 18 will be like, you could be at the pub and then your mates will be like, just worry about it, get on YOLO, you can just go on a Kentucky tour, whatever. But it's like, where will they be in 10 years by the choices that they're taking? So be very conscious of the choices that you're taking in your youth, because when you're getting older, it's going to be a very different sort of position. Yeah. So the thing is that when you're a kid, you might be sitting here at 20 going, well, I don't have a deposit. I don't have the money saved up, right? Go do whatever it is. Go hustle. Go sell stuff. I used to flip things on trading posts, go get cars and caravans and sell them, buy them for this, sell them for that. Whatever I had to do to get my next deposit. Work 2 jobs, spend no money, whatever. I didn't set up a business till many, many years later. Set up a business. Whatever that looks like, you need to get cash in, whether that from an active income, and then turn that active income into passive assets, which is very important. So a 40-year-old that bought their house 10 years ago or 20 years ago will sit there and go, well, I'm 40 years old, but I've got a 200 grand or 500 grand or $1 million worth of equity. Well, that's good. The 40-year-old or the 50-year-old has equity. Good on them, right? Yes. They've got a high-paying job. Good on them, right? But what the 20-year-old might think, I don't have a high income and I don't have this, I don't have that, I'm screwed. What they have is youth and time on their side, because once you're in your 18 or 19 or 20 or 21, 22, 23, some people in their 18 or 20 or 25 have kids. But if you don't have kids, right, when you're 18 to 30, right, if you're having a kid when you're 30 today, you can streamline yourself, right? You've got one person, you could stay at home, you could try and minimize your cash flow, reduce your expenses as much as you can. When you turn to 30, and let's say you go and get married or whatever, have a kid, whatever, right? You now got 3 people supporting from one income, and it does make it much harder. So whilst you're younger, the most compounded effects you wouldn't realize when you're 18, 19, 20, but to be different than all the other people around you is take the action as early as you can, because there's no better time than the age that you're at the time. So,
well, like you said, you were 25 and retired.
Yeah.
So, but you laid that foundation in your 20s for
teenage years.
Yeah, in your teenage years. And that has been able to help you build on your success.
Yeah.
To however old you are now.
Getting old, right? Getting old, right? I was getting a haircut recently and I was seeing all the hair fly off me, right? And I'm looking at this old prick throwing all this white hair at me, right? And I look up and it's like it's my hair falling down from getting shaved. So
happens to the best of us.
It does. So I think getting the kids involved at an early age, getting them excited about, the prospects. People go, go get a job, or how many of your parents, right, just put a little poll or whatever, like how many of your parents told you go get a job when you're 14 or whatever? It's like, is that really encouraging? It's like, okay, now you can go out and be a big slave. It's a kid's movie. It's like a Bee or something. What's that, Bee? Have you seen
the
that?
Bee movie, with Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and it's like an enslavement. It's entrapment.
Yeah.
And people don't realise they're in that industrial production line of life, and we've just been turned into, a tool. And
I think there's two trains of thought with that. I do agree with you on that, but then I also believe that there is benefit in going and working for other businesses to understand processes and procedures and how other people are doing things, because you're always going to learn something from someone, right? So sometimes it's not a bad idea for a 14-year-old to go and work for another business, because probably not going to learn as much from mum and dad because it's mum and dad.
True. I didn't mean that in a way of not working, but it's like the conversation around how that's positioned.
Yes.
Yeah. Like it's like, oh, well, what are you going to do for work? So I've got a nephew, right? And I've got this nephew, and he's pretty switched on. And he's, I'd love to see him, do something entrepreneurial. He has the potential to do that.
Yeah.
And then his nan came in and said to him, oh, so what are you going to be when you leave school, right? What career path are you going to take? And it's like, instead of asking the kid, oh, what job are you going to get? It's like, well, what do you want to do? What solution did you want to achieve? What are your goals? Where do you want to be at? When was the last time you asked your kids, where do you want to be when you're 30? Like, people aren't asking their kids. As a parent, or as a kid, either way, when did your parents ask you, what are your goals in life, right? Everyone's trying to push you into a job, push you into a uni degree or whatever the case may be, but no one's asking you, where do you want to be? And really, like maybe a lot of 20-year-olds, 18-year-olds and 15-year-olds don't know where they want to be. They want to be an astronaut, they want to be a fairy or whatever, right? But the thing is that, take an active role in nurturing and mentoring and helping your children. Like, your children are an adult for most of your life, right? If you have a kid, whenever, them mostly as an adult, so you want to try and guide them and coach them to be the best adult that they can be.
Yeah.
You're just blessed with seeing them as a child.
As a
not
child,
people.
yeah. I think a big one that people forget, and I actually heard this in a sales training recently, is getting comfortable with rejection and failure. Because that's such a big part of life too.
Yeah.
I mean, we can teach kids all about success and everything, but making them come, because that is very uncomfortable. If you do something and it doesn't work, or if someone says no to you, it's like, that's horrible. You present clients properties every day. I'm sure you get a few no's in there, and you're probably quite used to it now. But a salesperson just starting out, that can be quite devastating.
Yeah.
But if you can teach kids from a young age, hey, rejection's just part of life.
Yeah.
When we were kids, no one got a trophy just for showing up, but now,
well,
kind of
the more labels you can put on the kid nowadays, the better it's like, the more problems you have, the better it is, right? It's like, there's an whole other conversation we can have. So I guess, like, your values, your beliefs around money and investing, what would be the main things if we fast forward to your children being 20? What would you like to see them at, and how do you see yourself guiding them to safely getting there, besides what we talked about today?
So I think a lot of what I have done was the family that I was brought up in. So seeing my dad run his business, and then they hit like financial problems, so in my early 20s, so that was a big learning curve. I was always exposed to businesses because my grandfather had them, my uncles had them, so that was always a conversation when we would get together and around the dinner table. It was always natural that I was going to do something in business, and I look at all my cousins and everyone's kind of gone down that path of buying properties and doing different things. And even my siblings are pretty much the same. So for my kids, I would never want to tell them what I want them to do, but I just want them to be aware, to have enough sense about them that they can survive in the world. They're girls, so I kind of want them to be tough. Like, I don't want to be able to survive, because the world's a tough place.
Yeah.
and no one's going to be there to wrap them in bubble wrap and tell them everything's going to be okay.
Teach them to be a G.
Yeah, sure. Be gangsters if they want to be.
Awesome. Well, on that note, is there any other comments that you'd like to leave with the viewers, or you think are important? Or
no, I think the podcast is a great start. You can just have it on in the background with your kids around.
I guess that's important, right? Like you say that, and I think more people always say it with a sly remark. Like people spend more time thinking about the next holiday, shopping, what they're going to spend on payday, whatever, than what they are, about their escape from the matrix and the trap that we're caught in. And I think we fulfill our lives with lots of things that we care about and all that sort of stuff. But if we really care about our kids and whatnot, we want to set them up for what's best for their life. And the difference between what's best and what they want are two separate things, right? If they want chicken nuggets and you're feeding them poison, right, or you can feed them wholesome foods, well, they need to have the wholesome foods, right? So if they're being fed the right food to be the healthy, strongest, biggest, best version they can be, what about when it comes down to the things that they're feeding themselves? Oh, I want to go watch Peppa Pig. I want to go watch, whatever. And like the element of kids being kids. But, how many times do kids just get an iPad thrown in front of them, or a game, or I see kids and they're like they look like an NPC playing an NPC. They're just like, it's like what's that GTA, and they're like, in life is like, right? And then that's how they go through. Square eyes, right? Here you go. It's a NPC, square eyes, whatever it is. Right? You don't want your kid being an NPC from looking at NPCs too much, but like you could be getting them outdoors and whatever, but also feeding them with the content that's out there, right? Getting them involved, finding content for them.
I think the big thing is we've focused a lot on kids and what we can do for kids, but the biggest way that they're ever going to learn is by mum and dad doing what they want them to do. Like, I listened to this guy and he was a really successful piano player, and he said, I would have given up on it, except my dad learned to play the piano and we would do it together. Yeah. And now he's gone on and he plays in concert halls and does all that sort of stuff. So if you want your kids to do something, you need to actively be doing that as well. So if you're wanting your kids to set goals, then you need to be setting goals and showing them how that looks. If you want them to have a 5-year plan, you need to have a 5-year plan. So it's all, we can teach our kids everything, but I think it's they will mirror whatever they see. Exactly.
It's like when you watch The Simpsons, you've got Barney and then you've got that Nelson, and they look like the same.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you go through life and you see like this kid's morphing into the parent, right? And that could be like a success or not.
So yeah.
Cool. Well, I think there's a lot, Hayley. So thanks a lot for sharing and coming into the podcast today. And once again, if you guys have kids or want to share with as a gift for your nieces, nephews, friends, kids, whoever, the book, it's a good start to get on that journey of educating them and whatnot. You can get access to that link in the description below. And on that note, thanks a lot for that, Hayley.
Thank you.
High five. Catch up soon, guys. If you like this video, make sure to share it, like it, leave a comment if you've got anything else that you'd like to see on upcoming podcasts. You can see us every Thursday on Google Play, Apple Play, Spotify, and YouTube. We'll catch up soon. Have a great day. Bye for now. Like Bilal said, man, we're stuck in the matrix. This my advice, don't care if you take it. The dollar back to die, soon to be hyperinflated.